or the chance to naturalize, work, receive an education, or benefit from government assistance. Most illegal immigrants are from impoverished, war-torn, dangerous countries simply seeking better lives for their families, but are rejected because they lack the education or financial means. Immigrants, legal or otherwise, contribute greatly to the economies of countries receiving them, working the fields and farmlands locals refuse to work, understanding the value of education and social services in ways many first-world locals do not. If hypothetically, Canada became war-torn, dangerous, and access to essential resources were difficult, Stefan, wouldn't you do everything necessary to get your wife and daughter to a country of safety, even if that meant illegal means if other options weren't available? That's from Roxanne.
Oh, hey, Roxanne, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Stefan, how are you doing?
Well, and you?
I'm good. I'm glad to get a second chance to get to talk to you.
Sure, I'm glad you called in.
Yeah.
I never want to disappoint someone, ever, because that's what philosophy's all about. It's just making sure that nobody has any negative emotional experiences to your arguments.
Right. It should all be positive and good and dandy.
That is such a girly way to start things off. I just wanted to point that out. It's not so much that I'm angry. I'm more just sad than anything. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, my euphemism for my intense rage.
Okay, so tell me, when have I ever said that all illegal immigrants are dishonest moochers on taxpayers' dollars?
Well, okay, I'll give you that. You never did say that. But on the call where a young man had called in, he had been an illegal immigrant, went over with his parents at 6 years old, and then repatriated back to Mexico. And, you did do a rant, and it was confessed as a rant about your frustrations with illegal immigrants. Well, I can certainly understand a lot of the frustrations because immigration, and this is sometimes even regardless of whether it's legal or not, but it definitely brings, they definitely bring the cultural issues and problems.
Roxanne.
Yes?
What was my question?
Sorry. Yes.
You're filibustering already, and we're not even 1 minute and a half into the conversation.
I'm sorry. You said, when did you describe
all illegal immigrants as dishonest moochers on taxpayers' dollars?
And I said, you never used those words.
So not only are you disappointed in what I said, I didn't even say it.
No, but all right. I didn't say you said that, but I felt that you were making some generalizations.
I'm going to read to you back to your comment. I was very disappointed to hear your hard stance on illegal immigrants, generalizing them, this is referring to me generalizing them, as dishonest moochers on taxpayers' dollars who shouldn't be given sanctuary or the chance to naturalize, work, receive an education, or benefit from government assistance. So this is my stance, according to you.
Well, that's what I understood from it.
So those were your impressions about what I said.
Well, the impression came from, well, certainly you did make some comments on the moral stance of the young man's mother. When you did say that, she knew what she was doing was illegal and immoral, and she did it anyway. And, and you did do a rant on your frustrations.
Wait, are you saying that illegal immigrants, it's not illegal?
No, not at all.
Okay, so me describing it as illegal is actually kind of buried in the title, right? Illegal immigrants.
Yes. I 100, but you did mention that, the fact that you had a problem with some of the policies of the sanctuary cities allowing these immigrants, these illegal aliens, to work, to benefit from getting an education and government assistance. And I see that as almost it's really, I don't want to use the term counterproductive, but certainly the immigrants that are causing problems and causing criminality are not the ones that are seeking out work and education. That I know for certain.
Okay. So if you're a European immigrant and you come to America, the household, you have a 26% rate of welfare usage if you come from Europe. Mexican immigrant households, this is legal immigration. Mexican immigrant households consume welfare at a rate of 73%. So close to triple the amount.
Right.
United States welfare usage, natives 30%, immigrants 51%, illegal immigrants 62%.
Okay.
So very, very high use of welfare.
Right. Right.
Do you pay a lot in tax, Roxanne? Do you pay a lot in taxes?
Well, because I'm from Jamaica, so I am a new. Well, I'm in the process of immigration. I'm living in Toronto right now, but so all I can tell you is my experience of taxation in Jamaica, which is about 25% of my income. So that's all I know that in Canada, Canadians are certainly taxed a lot more. So I personally don't have the experience of
You're not
a Canadian
paying taxes.
citizen.
Let's just cut to the chase. You're not paying taxes.
Well, I'm not even working,
Okay.
so no.
So you're not paying taxes. So you're not paying for this stuff.
Paying for what stuff?
Illegal immigrants. You're not.
Well,
they consume massive amounts of tax revenue from the domestic, hardworking, tax-paying population.
Okay.
And if you're not even paying taxes, what does it matter what you say? You've got no skin in the game. You get to parade around your moral excellence. Nobody sends you a bill for it. You're not paying for it.
Well, what I would say though, Stefan, is that yes, that's true. I don't have the experience of a Canadian paying for the welfare of immigrants in Canada. But to say that, I mean, you did say that, listen, they just need to go and start revolutions in their own countries.
No, listen, you've got to stop. You got to stop just characterizing what I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay. You're not paying any taxes, so it's free for you to have these opinions. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. How many illegal immigrants are you putting up in your home?
None.
Why?
What do you mean? Well, because it's illegal and I wouldn't do something illegal.
Oh, it's illegal.
Yes, it's illegal.
And you wouldn't want to participate in something that's illegal. You wouldn't want your resources being provided to something that was illegal.
Well, no, I wouldn't.
Okay, so that's the perspective, I would assume, to some degree, of the average taxpayer who does not want his or her taxes being stripped from his or her wallet in order to fund something that's illegal.
Well, no, I certainly understand that, Stefan, but, you know, we're ignoring the causes that contribute to the fact that people are immigrating anyway. And okay, let's say that I was, someone came up to me and demanded a percentage of my salary going towards, helping or aiding persons who are impoverished and don't have rights in this country. Certainly, I would contribute to that.
Sure, you could hang on. You could have a charity, which hang on. You could contribute to a charity that would help people. Right? Now, of course, it's called foreign aid, or you can do charitable contributions to countries overseas to help people get access to education, to get access to food and shelter and so on. You can set up a lovely charity to help people overseas, and that should be enough for all the compassion that you need. You're really genuinely helping people overseas in their own country, where it's perfectly legal for them to live and to stay and to work and to build their society.
Well, Stefan, the thing is that, ideally that would be great. But the fact is that many of these countries that people are escaping from are war torn and their lives are in danger, either from violence, either from war crimes. People are literally dying literally dying to get to places like America, meaning they're getting into these boats that capsize.
Wait. What are you talking about? Which South or Central American country, which is the vast majority of illegal immigrants to America in particular, which South or Central or North American, if we include Mexico, which of these countries is currently at war?
Well, I wasn't. Okay, so you're only talking specifically about South and Central American.
Well, if we're talking about illegal immigrants, they generally don't stow away on airplanes. They generally walk across the country, which means South, Central, or North America when it comes to America.
No, they're smuggled in from all over, Stefan.
No, but the vast majority of them come overland.
Not necessarily, and maybe they come overland because they came from another country to a borderland and then cross over. No, I wouldn't say that that's 100%. Yes, the illegal immigrants are the ones that are traveling over the land borders, and so they're from Central and South America. I wouldn't say so at all. I mean, I've certainly been following what's been going on in the Middle East.
There are wait. There are like 20. Hang on. There are like, Europe is another matter, but in North America, in Canada, and well, let's talk about America. There are like millions and millions of illegal immigrants. There are some estimates that it's 20 or 30 million, and there's some numbers behind all of that. Okay. You can't possibly think, Roxanne, that 20 or 30 million people were smuggled in on boats.
I'm not saying that all of them were smuggled in on boats.
It's a tiny minority.
I wouldn't say it's a tiny minority. That you're saying that the majority of the illegal immigrants are from Central and South America. That's what you're saying.
Majority of illegal immigrants in America are Mexicans from Mexico. So let's just deal with people walking across the border. Otherwise, there'd be no point building the wall, right?
No, but I would definitely disagree because, first of all, there are many ways to immigrate illegally, if you want to call it that. For instance, people who come in on visitors visas and then don't go back. That is illegal immigration. So they can come in via plane. They come in on visitors visas.
Okay. So I mean, I understand all of that. There are many countries in the world that are at war. And so
and I'm not just talking about war either. I'm talking about cultures of criminality and violence.
No, I understand that. So how many people do you think outside of Western countries, and we did originally talk about war-torn countries, now you're just talking about dysfunctional countries. The majority of countries in the world are dysfunctional. I mean, outside of the East Asian countries and the European and European-derived countries. There are hundreds of millions of people, if not billions of people, in those countries who would like to come, let's say, to America or Canada, right?
Right.
So how many is too many, do you think? What's your top limit? What's your ceiling? How many do you think is too many?
Well, Stefan, I think that everyone should have the right to life and safety. And because the thing is, Stefan, I'm coming from a country where violence is at your doorstep. Jamaica is not at war. We have so many social issues, right? That this is something that I see, and just because, yes, I've been grown up in the middle class and I'm educated and have had access, but this is something that has affected my life. It's definitely affects people who are poor, and so I feel like I can speak because I know what it is like living in a country where, you go out the door, you don't even know if you're going to get raped before you come home.
I understand that. And Roxanne, do you know what the average IQ is in Jamaica?
No, I don't.
71.
That's terrible.
71.
That's terrible.
That's borderline retarded.
Yeah.
Average IQ is 71. IQ is significantly genetic, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say, Stefan, that IQ, things that affect IQ are not necessarily genetic, but have a lot to do with the social issues that are going on. I know that you had done a video on child abuse and spanking and how it affects the mental development of a child. Jamaica
sure, you can, let's say, hang on. So let's say theoretically, you can, and there are some arguments for this, that you can get a couple of extra IQ points by not spanking and by breastfeeding, which might get it to 75 or 76. But of course, you have to convince the IQ 71 parents to breastfeed and not hit their children.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay.
There's no magic soil that changes the genetics of a population, right?
Well, I would suppose so. I suppose so. Well, no, the thing is that, Stefan, I would say, though, a Jamaican child, coming from poverty, if they were adopted by a baby and raised in a loving home with access to the resources that they need, you might see the next, what's his name? That doctor, that's the neurological pediatrician surgeon. What's his name? And he ran
Ben Carson
for president. Ben Carson, exactly. I mean, well,
no, these. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sorry to you can check through my whole playlist on IQ differences and so on, but it does not appear to be the case. It does not appear to be the case that you can, like, people in Denmark are very tall. If you take someone from mainland China and you have the Denmark people adopt the baby from mainland China, and mainland Chinese people are often quite shorter, they will grow to their maximum height that is constrained by their genetics, but they won't end up as tall as the Danish people. And they've done twin studies and so on that, particularly later in life, IQ is about 80% genetic. So the idea that, if you've got an average IQ in North America, I'm thinking Canada and America, in the high 90s, 100, and you've got an average IQ in Jamaica of 71, that's 2 standard deviations, right? That's almost 30 points of IQ.
Right.
I don't think that it's going to be closed environmentally. And there's no scientific indication that it could be.
So it's absolutely been scientifically proven that IQ is definitely genetic and not based on any social surrounding issues.
No, Roxanne, what did I just say? What percentage as adults, what percentage did I say was genetic?
I forgot. I'm sorry.
80%.
80% is
which means that you've got 20% to work with environmentally, and nobody knows how to change that 20%. Okay.
Well, okay. I mean, you're giving me some statistics here. I'll do my own back check and just see, because I've just seen where environmental factors have drastically changed the lives of children, coming from very bad situations, and
Okay, let's go back to, let's go back. No, you just have to study the science, right? So without anecdotes. Let's go back to Jamaica. So in Jamaica, people vote, right?
Yeah.
And is it fairly safe to say that they vote for bad policies, bad government ideas, bad policies?
Well, the thing is that government in Jamaica is definitely very different from government in Canada and in the United States with regards to how policies are made. The heads of government are very corrupt, and it's not even like in the States where if a government official is found guilty of something, well, they have to retire or resign.
Sorry to interrupt you. And I understand the corruption of Jamaica, and the corruption is very much associated with the IQ 71 average, right, which means that half of the people are below that. But why don't, if people have the capacity in Jamaica, since they have the vote, why don't they vote out corrupt politicians and vote in honest politicians?
Yes. Sorry, Stefan. Sorry. Yes. So you're saying, could you repeat that?
Sure, no problem. Why don't people in Jamaica vote out the corrupt politicians and vote in honest politicians?
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, to find the honest politicians is one thing, because even getting out the corrupt ones, well, who will replace them with the morals and standards that would keep it from being corrupt.
Wait. Are you saying, hang on, are you saying that Jamaicans are generally corrupt and immoral, and that's why they can not either recognize or vote for honest politicians?
I would say that the social and economic climate that gives a small portion of educated upper middle class Jamaicans a lot of resources, and the majority of Jamaicans are poor and don't have access to anything, it leads to a climate where people take advantage of that situation.
Wait, so are you saying that the Jamaicans as a voting population cannot tell the difference between an honest politician and a corrupt politician? And by the way, for those who don't know, Transparency International Corruption Index for Jamaica ranks, out of a score of 100, it gets 39. It is 0 being completely corrupt. So it's a very corrupt place. But my question is, are Jamaicans as a whole able to identify bad politicians and vote in honest politicians?
I'm sure that they are able to identify persons that they would hope have the moral standing that is needed to put in place good policies, right? But even so, I can tell you that my father went to school with the former Prime Minister Bruce Golding, and even he told me of a conversation where former Prime Minister Bruce Golding said, you know, he came in with the intentions of changing the country and bringing honesty and transparency, and his very own bodyguards that were assigned to him had illegal arms. You know. Okay,
I'm just going to have to. I'm sorry, because this is not relevant to what I mean, it's an interesting story and all that. Okay. So if people in Jamaica are able to identify and vote for honest politicians, then Jamaica should become honest. The Jamaican political system. If people, hang on. If people in Jamaica are unable to either identify or vote for honest politicians, then it explains why it's corrupt. But then why would a first world country want people come in who regularly vote for dishonest politicians and join the voter rolls of the first world country?
They are not voting for dishonest politicians. They are voting for the only politicians that are available to be voted for. And
so then there's something fundamentally corrupt. If I understand what you're saying correctly, there's something fundamentally corrupt about the Jamaican personality, in which case, why would they necessarily want a lot of them in the first world country?
Well, that certainly is...
logically speaking, right?
Okay. I would not say that the average Jamaican is corrupt, but those who are, you know, ironically enough, it is the Jamaicans who have access, have resources, have education, and, you know, for some reason, take advantage of a system that's easy to take advantage of.
Okay, so then it's easy to take advantage of Jamaican voters by promising them various goodies or by whatever it is, providing them various incentives. It's very easy to take advantage of Jamaican voters by corrupt politicians. So why would you want a bunch of Jamaican voters in a first world country if they're so easy to take advantage of and corrupt?
All right. Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, the thing is that they are being taken advantage of because of circumstance. And to say that if those circumstances changed, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying, all right, first of all, I totally... when you said try to start change in your own country, okay, that's actually something that I have been striving to do, you know, and so because I work in media and, you know, have access to some resources and research and information about legislation. And that's something I've been trying to do in terms of how things are done in institutions and things like that. But I'll tell you that, you know, persons at the top will outright threaten you if you even say that, listen, you know, what's being done here is wrong, and I will alert the media to it or alert people to what's going on here. And I've been personally threatened when it comes to doing things like that. So, I'm just saying that some people cannot affect the change necessarily in the situation that they're in.
No, come on. Voting is anonymous, right? If they wanted honest politicians, they'd vote for honest politicians.
But they're no honest politicians.
I know you say that, in which case you're saying there's something fundamentally corrupt about the Jamaican character or the Jamaican culture, which does not exactly make the case for immigration, right?
Well, I certainly wasn't saying that, because, Stefan, if you were living in a country that was corrupt and that had a lot of bars for you making change, I mean, would that mean that therefore your character is corrupt or not smart enough to do anything about it? I don't think so. These circumstances that people are facing, are really difficult circumstances.
They are. And, they absolutely are. Listen, I understand. I've great sympathy. And when you have a population with an average IQ of 71, there are a few people who are very smart, who are off the right side of the bell curve, and they end up dominating the society. This is often why you end up in a lower IQ country or culture. You end up with a small group of people who have a disproportionate amount of political power. And it's not fair. It's not right. But I don't know how it can be solved by immigration.
Well, but the thing is that, well, all right, immigration, to say that, okay, well, I will say that definitely if people have cultural issues and social issues and problems that they take with them to wherever it is they're going, that causes a problem for the countries receiving them. That's certainly true. But a lot of people, they certainly see the immorality. They see the way things are done. They don't agree. And they're living in a circumstance that can't change that. And they want better for their children. They don't want their children to absorb the toxic culture.
No, listen, sorry to interrupt you, Roxanne. I completely understand why people want to come to first world countries. Of course, you don't have to make that case for me.
Right.
That's not the question. That's not the question. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're a beautiful woman, the question isn't, does anyone want to date me? The question is, who should I date?
Okay.
Right? And knowing that you're going to say no to a lot of guys. Well, let me ask you this, based upon our last conversation. Where is the father of your child?
He is in Jamaica.
And why is he in Jamaica?
I can't really go into the details of that right now, Stefan, because I can't go into the details of that, certainly not on a public show.
Sure. Is he your husband?
Yes, he is.
All right. And is he sending you money to survive in Canada?
Somewhat.
And how are you surviving in Canada?
Well, personally, I had some funds and some family members have been helping me. Mm-hmm.
And are you taking government assistance?
Not at the moment.
When were you?
I have never been on Canadian government assistance.
Ah, okay.
I just came to the country, so I have been here.
How is this going to work? You're in school, you're going to get a job. How does it work?
Well, I will tell you this, that my immigration process is completely legal, and I am looking to work. I have applied for a work permit, and once I'm able to work, hopefully I will start working, and I've made a lot of strides to do so. So, but I can't really go into the details because it's complex and no,
that's fine. I understand. And, I appreciate and respect the fact that you're taking a legal approach to this. That's a good thing.
Yes, let me assure you. No, I'm not standing up for illegal immigrants because I'm an illegal. No. But I can understand why, when a person is absolutely desperate and their lives are at stake and their children's lives are at stake, if they don't have the means necessary, meaning the education, they don't have the funds or whatever, but someone is offering them, listen, I can smuggle you into the country on some forged papers, I can certainly understand why somebody would make that decision based on the desperation that...
Of course I can understand why people make that decision. I mean, I can understand why people make any number of decisions that I disagree with. The question is, why should the hardworking local taxpayers be forced to pay for illegal immigrants?
Because Stefan, I would say that morally, everybody should have the right to life and to safety. And
why should everyone have that right? I don't quite understand. Are you saying that billions of people should come to America and Canada, and that the taxpayers should be forced to pay for their health care, their housing, the education of their children, and all of that stuff? And that is true for everyone in the world who is living less well or has less potential in their home country than would be the case in, say, Canada and America. Are you saying that a billion or more people should come to these countries and the taxpayers should be forced to pay their bills?
That's pretty extreme. That's not.
No, really, you're saying everyone in the world has the right to safety or whatever it is, which means everyone has the right to come to safe countries or to countries not currently at war.
Salvation doesn't rely on two countries, you know. Salvation, I mean, peace and safety, life and safety should either be gotten either by maybe aid with working with the country to ensure...
No, you're not answering my question, Roxanne. How many people should be allowed to come to first world countries? Is there a top? Is there a ceiling? Is it 1 billion people? Is it 1.5 billion people? Is it 2 billion people? Is it 3 billion people? How many people, given your framework of rights, how many people should be allowed to come to first world countries?
Well, I'm sure there definitely needs to be a limit, because you can't...
Okay, good. What is the limit?
The country. What?
What is the limit?
Well... All right, that's a really, because I don't even know how many immigrants are coming into the country, period. And I don't know the monetary effects on the government or the percentage tax going to what and what. So I really couldn't give you...
Okay, so you don't have any idea. You're just throwing out these ideas of rights, and you haven't given a single thought as to what it means in practice. Now let me ask you this, Roxanne. Why should I have less money for my family, for my daughter? Why should I have less money because other people want to come into the country illegally? Why should I be forced to pay for them, thus having less money available for my own family?
Well, I don't think that... All right, what I gather, and I have limited information on what Canadians are taxed. I understand that it's basically the government taxes persons based on how much money they make and the lifestyle that they're able...
It's very high. It's very high.
It's very high. Well, I'm sure, and I know I was having a discussion with one person who lives here, and because he said he's single, he doesn't have any children or anything, and so the money that he works is taxed a lot versus somebody who, you know, has a family and the money...
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. Why should I be forced to pay? Why should I have less money available for my family and for the charities that I want to participate in, the good work that I want to do in my philosophy show? Why should I be taxed at the rate of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year to pay for people who are here illegally? Why? Tell me what's in it for me. What is the benefit for me? How does it work for me?
Okay, I can definitely tell you the benefit of money going towards this, because when there are there's no social infrastructure made for these immigrants that come across illegally, for them to get a job, get education. When I see it for myself in my own country, when there are no social services, people are driven to violence and criminality.
No, come on. Are you saying that I should pay people who are here illegally so they don't rob me, and this is your ideal solution? They don't break into my house and steal from me? They don't beat me up? They don't key my car? They don't steal from it. I've got to give them money to pay them off like the mafia so they don't attack me, and this is your ideal solution?
All right. Well, that's kind of flipping it a little bit.
No, you said if the social services aren't there, people will turn to crime. So we basically have to give people money so they don't steal from us. So the government has to steal from me so other people don't. And this is somehow... Tell me how it's good for me. How does it benefit me? What's in it for me?
Well, for one thing...
Having them here at all. Having them here. Like, once they're here, that's not... The question is, what's the benefit of having illegal immigrants in the country for me?
Well, first of all, I know a lot of companies, of private companies that certainly have benefited from the fact of, hold on for just a second. I'm sorry.
Sure, other companies benefit. There are farmers who benefit from cheap labor, and there are people who get cheap maids, and there are people who get cheap gardeners.
Exactly. So
that's not me. How does I asked you how it benefits me, and they only get those people because my taxes go up. So the farmers get cheap labor, and the people get cheap maids, and other people get cheap nannies, and other people get cheap gardeners. But my taxes go up to pay for all of that. So the fact that they get cheap stuff is negative for me. So I want you to tell me, how does it benefit for me? I mean, farmers benefited from slavery. That doesn't mean that somehow that's good for the country, right?
All right, no. But I will say, though, that the social services that allow these immigrants to get an education means that you have productive persons now in your society that have the skills necessary to contribute to your economy.
73% welfare usage is not productive citizenry. Come on, Roxanne. We already went through these numbers.
Well, okay. All right. Well, all right. Listen, I don't know how many people are just sitting on welfare and
73% welfare usage for Mexican immigrants versus European immigrants in the low 20s.
And you know for sure that these people are not trying to get an education and improve themselves. They're just sitting on this welfare and not doing anything.
How does it benefit me to have illegal immigrants in the country?
Well, all right. Illegal immigration does not benefit anyone, okay?
No, it must benefit someone. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen.
No, but the fact is that illegal activity happens a lot, okay? 1 second, right? Illegal activity happens whether we want it to or not. So what are we going to do to safeguard this from becoming even worse? Where illegal immigrants are here, they've come into the country regardless because there's somebody who's smuggling them in, right? And then they're running amok because they don't have access to anything. It's a safeguard. Illegal immigration ideally should not happen, but the fact is it does. And if it does happen, you need a safeguard to say, okay, what can we do to stop
hang on. But this is very passive, right? This is just saying, well, there's a lion in town. What can we do? We just have to try and not get eaten, right? I mean, if welfare and government benefits and if education and so on were not available to illegal immigrants, there's a general principle, which is you don't get to keep the proceeds of the crime. Right? If someone goes and robs a bank for $1 million and they go to jail for 5 years, they don't get to keep the $1 million, right? Otherwise, they just got paid $200,000 a year to go to jail, right?
Okay.
And so there's this general idea that you don't keep the proceeds of a crime. How that affects birthright citizenship is another matter, but if you're committing a crime, you should not get the benefits of that crime. And so if there was no welfare, theoretically, no welfare, no health care, at least no subsidized healthcare, no subsidized education, and so on, then the value of illegal immigration would be far lower, and then there would be much less.
Well, probably. That's true.
That's not probably.
Definitely.
People respond to incentives. It's absolutely true. I mean, it doesn't mean it would completely stop it, but it would be a huge disincentive, right? I mean, as you know, even with Trump talking about a border wall and so on, the amount of illegal immigration into the United States has gone down enormously just this year alone. So if illegal immigrants were dealt with according to the laws in general, as far as I understand them, I'm no lawyer, which is you catch an illegal immigrant and you deport them back to their home country and they don't get to put their kids in school. And I know that there are some places where it's legal and so on, but if there was no welfare or government subsidies, grants, whatever it was, available, or education available for illegal immigration, then illegal immigration would be far lower, and then taxes could be lowered enormously. And then with the reduced taxes, we always see this in the West, when taxes go down, charitable contributions go up. So then desperate people could get help in their home countries from people who would be charitable towards that.
I beg to differ there, because certainly in the Scandinavian countries where the taxes are ridiculously high, those countries are definitely experiencing, where education is next to nothing, is next to free in places like Germany or Sweden and places like that. There are a lot of social services. The population benefits from these social services. So the taxes are high, and it's not just because of illegal immigration. The taxes are high in these countries generally, and they are benefiting from these high taxes because these social services, the persons, the locals of these countries are benefiting from these social services. So
wait, hang on a second. Are you saying, Roxanne, to me that European countries don't have any problem with migrants or refugees or legal and illegal immigration from third world countries and from the Middle East?
No, they certainly do have problems with what's certainly from what's been going on recently with the Syrian refugees.
Which is the result of the welfare state, which is kind of what I'm arguing against. I mean, the welfare state is disastrous for just about everyone, in my humble opinion, and I made this case before. So these are countries that are having great problems because of government redistribution of wealth.
Well, if you compare the crime rate in countries like Sweden to the crime rate in countries like America, where the Swedish are taxed to the teeth, and Americans, the taxation is in debate, and this is that. I'm sorry, but I do see a difference. With the problems.
We know what the difference is. We know what the difference is historically between Sweden and America. The difference in crime rates between Sweden and America is that you have at least historically, you had almost a completely white high IQ population, and high IQ populations in general, there's very little crime. With low IQ populations, there tends to be a lot of crime. So whites in America commit murder, for instance, at the same rate as whites in Belgium, as whites in Sweden, as whites all over the place. And blacks a lot of time will commit crime rates similar to other blacks around the world. East Asians will commit crime rates. So it's around IQ and it's around other things to do with testosterone and so on. But if you look at South Korea, there's almost no crime, despite the fact that Seoul is a city about the same size as Mexico City. And so the idea that it's just this welfare state that produces no criminality is not really true at all.
Well, I would definitely. All right. Well, I wouldn't say that. Once you have a welfare state, there's not going to be, because there's not going to be any criminality. And maybe it is because the country has a very homogenous population.
I mean, if you look at Sweden, as I'm sure you're aware, the crime rate was very, very low for many, many, many years, and rates of rape have gone up, I think 1,400% just over the last few years because of the welfare state and because of the migrant crisis.
Well, is it the welfare state or the migrant crisis that's causing the criminality? Because
it is the welfare state. The welfare state is forcing the Swedish taxpayers to subsidize the importation of the migrants.
Well, then it's the migrants. It's the migrants that's causing the crime, not the welfare state.
No, the migrants are only there because of the welfare state.
Well, that you see, the thing is that, well, if you look at the migrant countries, they're all right. For instance, Jamaica certainly is not a welfare state. There are hardly any social services at all, and we have quite a horrible crime rate. So what's causing the crime?
But that's a function of the IQ 71 population, right?
Okay, so you're saying, fine. But clearly, welfare state does not equal crime. It's the people that cause the crime. It's the people that are causing the crime. It's the immigration that is causing the crime. It's people bringing in the social dysfunction that they had in their countries, bringing them into these countries, and that's what's causing the crime rate. It's not
right.
the fact that
So what you're saying, hang on. So what you're saying is that immigration brings in enormous problems of dysfunction, incompatibility, and criminality.
It depends on which culture is immigrating.
That's actually true. I agree with you, and we've seen the statistics. People from Europe use welfare very little. People from Mexico use it a lot, and that's because the average IQ in Europe and cultural compatibility is like average IQ in Europe is about 100, and the average IQ in Mexico is in the high 80s, and it's just going to have an effect on that. So it is a challenge to bring in IQ differences, ethnic differences, religious differences, cultural differences. How does it, and again, I get sort of back to your question, how does it benefit the domestic population? How does it benefit the people who are there? How does it benefit the people who are going to be forced to pay for all of this? Why would you want it?
All right. The thing is that immigration is something that is happening because of the social unrest and dysfunction and all the dysfunction that is happening. So immigration itself is not what is causing the problem. It is a social dysfunction, the social dysfunction that exists in these countries, and these social dysfunctions are causing people to emigrate, to leave, right? And unfortunately, they are leaving, but they are bringing with them these social dysfunctions. So I would say the social dysfunctions is what we should focus on here, and not, my taxpayer dollars. Not so much that the welfare state is causing criminality. Social dysfunction is causing criminality, not the welfare state.
So you're saying that criminality is environmental in origin. There's no choice, no morality, that it's entirely due to, I mean, this is a very Marxist argument, right? That negativity, negative human behavior is simply the result of, crime is produced by poverty and so on. And it's not true. I mean, if you look at the Appalachian region in America, it's about the poorest area in America, and its crime rate is virtually non-existent. And so, and if you look at somebody like Bernie Madoff, right? I mean, hugely rich and massively criminal. There has, of course, been social dysfunction all across the world, all throughout history. There was social dysfunction in the Middle Ages, but that didn't necessarily mean there was mass migration from the Middle East to Europe. I agree with you to some degree, which, doesn't mean either of us is right. I just wanted to point out the confluence, Roxanne, that what has happened is that several Muslim countries, several Middle Eastern countries have been attacked, undermined, decimated, and destroyed by Western powers. And in particular, under Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, Libya, Syria, and before that under Bush with Afghanistan and Iraq. And so these countries have been destabilized at the same time as there has been an open borders movement, the Schengen Agreement and the EU, and an open borders movement and a high welfare movement in Europe. And what that means, of course, is that the incentive to leave these countries is very high, and the incentive to go to Europe is very high. It's basically like you put a bunch of marbles on a piece of on a tabletop and you lift up one end, right? Well, they're going to roll. They're going to be in motion, and that I think is one of the basic causes. It's not poverty. I mean, during the Great Depression in the 1930s, crime rates did not increase, even though unemployment was like 40%.
I would agree with you. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So it is really that crime causes poverty. Now, the destruction of these countries is a terrible crime, and I think a horrible crime, and I think that the people who are responsible for it should face legal justice for their actions. But one of the terrible solutions, or one of the terrible problems, is because the welfare state in Europe pays people 10 times or more what they could make in their local economies. They have a huge incentive to go to Europe. And the vast majority, like in Italy, recently they did a survey of the refugees who were coming to Italy. Less than 3% of them are genuine refugees. The rest of them, you just look at the boats. It's all young men. Our country was so war-torn and so horrible and so horrifying. We had to flee and leave all our women and children behind. Come on.
Right.
Come on, it's not anything to do with that. It's that because the welfare state is drawing out people from the Middle East. Now, either it's drawing their best, in which case you could make some kind of argument to an economic benefit for Europe, which does not seem to be materializing at all. If they're sending their best, it means that there are fewer people there to rebuild the Middle East. If they're sending not their best, then it's not going to be of benefit to Europe. If they are sending their best, it means that the Middle Eastern countries are not going to be fixed or improved anytime soon. And what that means is, as the smartest and best people leave the Middle East, then there's fewer people to competently run the governments there, which means the governments are going to get more corrupt and destructive and despotic, which means more people are going to leave. There's no end to that process because they're constantly making massive numbers of babies in the Middle East, right? So that flood is never going to end. And so what the European system is doing by being such a great magnet and such a great pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for the migrant crisis is it is basically blocking off any capacity for these originating countries to improve. And that's never going to be a situation that ends. What's going to happen is more and more and more people are going to pile into Europe and cause a collapse of the welfare state. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of people there who came all this way and have very different ideas about how a society should be run, who then don't have any money around. And then what happens, right? And it just by the by, and I'll stop in a sec, there is a study called The Association Between Country-Level IQ and Country-Level Crime Rates by Dr. Kevin Beaver, who's been on this show a couple of times. That is, the criminality does not arrive from poverty or concentrated disadvantage or anything like that. The facts are fairly clear. And so each individual actor from the other countries, I completely understand why they're doing what they're doing. But how does it benefit either the people who are left behind, or how does it benefit the people whose countries they're going to? That's the question that nobody seems to be able to answer.
Well, all right. Well, first of all, I would say you're the chicken or the egg here in terms of the welfare state is causing people to immigrate. No, what is causing people to immigrate is the crime and violence. All right, or whatever crime regarding war crimes or crimes just criminality in general.
Oh, come on, Roxanne. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The majority of people coming to Europe are not coming from war-torn countries. No, it is not the case.
No. When I say crime, no. Listen, I'm putting war-torn and crime with drug-related, gang-related crime in the same batch. It's danger to your life. People's lives are endangered. So whether it's fear of genocide or whether it's fear of a rapist coming in.
Are you saying 30 million illegal immigrants came largely from Mexico to America because 30 million people, their lives are being threatened by drug gangs? You can't expect me to believe that.
What?
There are 30 million, but 20 to 30 million illegal immigrants in America, mostly from Mexico. And you're saying they're fleeing drug gangs and they're fleeing death. And are you saying that 20 to 30 million people left Mexico because they were being directly threatened by drug gangs or something else?
Wait, so you're saying that they weren't having lives, their lives in danger or serious desperation? They're just coming across to mooch off your dollars? I'd really say I wouldn't say that's the case. I would.
But you can't just not say things are the case. You have to bring some facts. You feel passionately about this subject. Why don't you have any facts? You just have a bunch of feels. Well, they're fleeing oppression. No, they're not. Well, they're not coming here for welfare dollars. 73% of the families are on welfare.
Well, okay.
Why in Europe do the migrants keep hop, skipping, and jumping to countries where they can finally get to a country with the highest welfare rate? Of course they're coming for welfare. It's the only reason they're there.
Oh, no, Stefan, come on. Looking at the circumstances.
No, give me some facts. I don't want any more of your opinions or your feels, Roxanne. With all due respect, you need to bring me some facts. I've given you facts and facts and facts. If you don't have any facts, we can suspend the conversation until you get more. But you have to stop bringing some facts.
I am certainly lacking in statistics and facts, Stefan. I would agree with you there. I have not done the research in regards to the number that are escaping from war-torn or from dangerous situations. But what I am saying is that, me personally, why I do see people taking the jump to do something as desperate as immigrating illegally and being smuggled into a country is that I'm seeing the desperation that the majority of Jamaicans are living in, and I see why persons would do that.
Then here's what you should do, Roxanne. You should learn about freedom. You should learn about liberty. You should learn about the free market, and you should go back and help people in Jamaica.
Certainly, that is my aim, Stefan.
Good.
Certainly, 100%.
Because you're coming to a country and saying, well, I have a lot of sympathy for people who are breaking your laws.
No, all right, no, listen. There are people breaking the... All right, no, I'm not just saying anybody who is breaking the law for illegal immigration needs to be sympathized with. I am specifically looking at persons who are escaping desperate situations. So that's the thing that I'm looking at, right? And personally, Stefan, I had to learn a lot about Canada before coming here to even find out what resources are available to me. So you're saying that these uneducated IQ 71 percent point Jamaicans are coming across because they know that this social welfare and that social welfare is going to be available to them. Personally, that doesn't make much sense to me.
You think that people aren't aware of welfare or social programs when they come?
A lot of people are not aware of the. You should hear some of the ridiculous ideas I've heard when it comes to immigration and what people think it's all about. And what the process is and things like that. People don't even understand. Well, certainly a lot of persons that I've talked to, people don't even understand the process of immigration.
So this is your anecdotes. We'd have no facts here, right?
All right. It's an anecdote again, Stefan. I'm just saying that, yes.
I'm just saying, Roxanne, if you want to have opinions that people can take seriously in these matters, you need to get more facts. Like just having the feels, having the sympathy, people in difficult situations. Let's take everyone in. Let's take care of everyone.
No,
that's not how a rational process for solving problems can possibly work.
Some of these people are coming from desperate situations that need to be sympathized with. I'm not saying everybody is in that. I'm not saying all illegal immigrants.
And how are you going to tell? What ability do you have, Roxanne, to tell people who are coming from desperate situations versus people who aren't? And there are rules around these things, which, as I pointed out, regarding Italy, only 3% of the migrants even began to fit the standard for being a refugee.
Okay.
So how are you going to... If you say, well, we'll let desperate people in, then everyone's going to pretend to be desperate. Everyone's going to fake desperation, and then where are you? I mean, why do I need... Are they showing empathy for me? Are they showing empathy for the amount of money that I have to spend on them versus my own family? Are they showing empathy for the civilization that my ancestors built? Are they showing any sympathy or empathy for the laws when they come in illegally to break them? Why should I show a lot of compassion for people who aren't showing any compassion for me and are coming in knowing ahead of time that they're going to be taking my tax money? Why should I show a huge amount of empathy for people who are coming in to take money from me against my will through the force of the state?
Stefan, first of all, only a fraction of your taxes is going towards the welfare of illegal immigration. You're sounding like all of your taxes are being taken and given to these illegal immigrants. Your taxes
That is such a terrible argument. I'm not even going to let you broadcast it on this show. I'm sorry. It is a principle. It doesn't matter if it's 1 penny or $10,000, but it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
I'm sure you're being taxed a lot of money, Stefan. That's not in question, but you're making it sound like 100% of that is towards...
Okay, Roxanne, if you're going to still make straw man arguments like it sounds like when I never made that assertion, I think we've come to the end of this conversation, because I've kept pushing back at you. And at the very beginning of this conversation, I was saying, well, what did I actually say and what are the facts? And it's all feels and straw man and so on. And that's not something I can really entertain in a philosophy show.
some of them were generalizations that you said about this the circumstance of the young man that was on there.
No, I never said that 100% of my tax money is going to illegal immigrants. So for you to create that is,
So, yes,
it's not even a remotely rational perspective. Sorry, I'm going to have to move on to the next caller, but I do appreciate you calling in.